Good morning. Again, we're here with Trials and Triumphs, and we just go and talk about various things that happen in lives and how you can move yourself above and beyond all of those. Today, we're going to talk about addiction. My guest here is Kimberly Dickey. She's my daughter in law, and she and her husband, Michael, have gone through some really major bouts on addiction. And they've paid the price immensely. They've both spent time in prison and had issues with their own children and so forth over the drugs. But we want to talk about that and getting into drugs and getting into this addiction, and what it does to you and how much you can lose. But you can dig yourself out of that every time. Kimberly and Michael are both doing very well at the moment, and I just want people to have some hope if they get into an addiction, that there is a way out. You don't have to stay there. When you get into addiction, you think, you know, stop and think about any experience that makes you feel good. Completed a project, eating chocolate chip cookies, or getting a shot of whiskey. It might make you feel good. And maybe you go out and puff on a cigarette or take a shopping trip. Some people choose to use a dose of Vicodin or a hit of heroin or whatever the case may be. These experiences of this feeling good, they don't necessarily or automatically lead to addiction, but some people are more likely to get addicted. Now, Kimberly, when did you first start using drugs, and what was your drug of choice?
I started using when I was just turned 19. I had just had my first child, and I was addicted to meth.
hmm Now, your husband was using meth before you even tried it, wasn't he?
My ex-husband, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was using before me, which made me end up using.
hmm
We would fight about it all the time because I didn't want him doing it, and I at that time I didn't do it, and so I just tried it, and then it took me from there.
One thing I've found with meth, the people I've come in contact with, some of them are immediately addicted.
Some are.
It messes with your brain cells and makes things really difficult. So that's your path. Your husband was doing it, and you just decided to see, why he liked it so much.
Yeah, why he chose that instead of wanting to hang out with me or the child that I had
hmm
that he was willing to take care of with me. He was in an addiction. He was an awful person in addiction.
hmm
He put his hands on me all the time, and I went through that for 15 years.
Yeah. Excuse me. I always have a cough in the morning. But addiction, it's a combination of your genetics, your neurobiology, and how it interacts with your psychological and your social factors. It's about like any kind of chronic disorder. If you've got diabetes type 2 or anything of that nature, heart disease, cancer, um, and addiction, like those particular things, is preventable and treatable.
Hmm.
You know, um, and one of the ways that you ended up being treated, though, is they put you in prison, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. That was my way out.
mm-hmm.
I don't have any kind of, I'm glad that it happened to me because now I can sit here today and actually be sober
Mm-hmm.
and take care of my daughter that is now 16. And I,
Beautiful daughter.
yes, yes. And I have an amazing husband that I would never, ever, I don't want to change it for the world. I love my little life right now.
It's okay. She's married to my son.
Yeah. Yes, I am.
And I have gone through years and years and years of Michael's addictions, whether it be alcohol or heroin. methamphetamines, whatever the case may be, pain pills.
Mm-hmm.
And the heroin is the one that disturbed me the most, I think. I've never understood people that want to do heroin.
Me neither. I don't want to do anything and just nod out and then end up overdosing. I'm scared of heroin, so I've actually never tried it.
Yeah, I don't think that's one I'd want to go around, but I have watched people get immediately addicted to methamphetamines.
Mm-hmm.
If you're taking meth and if your psychological profile is just a certain way, or you have a certain amount of dopamine in your system, then it can cause you to become immediately addicted.
Mm-hmm.
And if people don't understand, whenever you take meth or heroin or anything of that nature, and depending on how you use it too, it could be extremely fast. It gets into your brain and it messes with your dopamine levels. And one of the worst things about it is your dopamine levels, they are receptors, and they give a person a feeling of pleasure and reinforces behaviors, um, and it also makes you do critical things for your well-being, because it'll tell you, it's one of the things that tells you to go eat.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many meth people that are just little skinny sticks walking around.
Yeah,
Did you lose a lot of weight
I
on that?
did. Whenever I got arrested, I weighed 118 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I when I got shipped to prison, I weighed 153. And then when I got out of prison, I weighed 178.
Yeah. It's amazing, how much, your body gets back to where it needs to be.
Yeah. And I look back at old pictures and it's like my face was so sunk in. And I thought I looked good, but I really didn't. I really didn't. I did not.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever you walk around and you look almost skeletal, I've seen
Right.
so many almost skeletal looking, and then they get the sores all over their
Hmm.
bodies and stuff, and they're scratching, and
The skin
you know,
color doesn't even look the same.
yeah, and it's a very depressing thing whenever I see someone like that. I know lots of meth addicts, and other ones who may be into different things, and you know, I tried to talk to them about it, and try to understand what's going on and what made them get into that in the first place. And it amazes me that a lot of them can't tell me.
Yeah.
You know, they just needed somebody to, I don't know, recognize them, and it's like the other drug addicts, saw them and paid attention to them, that
Hmm.
they may not have been getting somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, did you have an entire group of people around you that into meth and so forth?
Yeah, I did. I actually had went to prison for delivery.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually the one selling the meth,
Mm-hmm.
which is I'm not happy about or proud of it by no means, but it's something that happened in my life. I believe it made me who I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
My life on meth and going to prison and in and out of jail all the time, and it's no life to live. It's really not.
Yeah, and then the other day we heard you were running for cops and hiding under trailers or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You are constantly looking over your shoulder, thinking everyone's out to get you. If not everyone, at least someone.
Mm-hmm.
And when the cops do get behind you, you end up taking off, and then that's a whole nother charge. And it just you dig a deeper hole, no matter what you do, as long as you're living a life of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes everything from you. I lost literally everything, from my kids to my family, everything. I had no one.
Yeah. And I know Michael. He spent a lot of times just living on the streets.
Yeah.
Were you homeless in that?
I went from couch to couch, but I never actually slept on the streets because like I said, I had the dope, so I was welcome in anywhere that as long as I wanted it. So I had a couch to sleep on. So I did never actually have to sleep on the streets like that. And it breaks my heart that Michael did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I know that we never wanted him on the streets, and we worried about him, but he was not in the position to want help at that point.
Right.
have to say he has kicked those addictions now. He's doing great. He went with Hope House of the Ozarks, which is part of a teen challenge program. And he was there a long time. He'd been in and out of a number of treatment facilities before he found Hope House.
Hmm.
And he went there straight out of prison. Did you ever go into a treatment facility, or you're just doing counseling?
I've never actually been into treatment or rehab. I'm in drug addiction treatment now, but they're just over the phone just because I've been going for so long.
Hmm.
But before I went to prison, I've never checked into a rehab or anything. I just,
You thought you were fine, didn't you?
yeah, I did. And I really wasn't. Didn't
Yeah.
look fine, wasn't fine.
You know, heroin and cocaine and amphetamines and so forth, they really mess with your brain. The same reward system is activated in your brain by, you know, hitting onto the dopamine. And the problems there is the fact that you do that and your body ultimately changes physiology. And so your dopamine, your natural dopamine levels, they're going to drop down. And so then you end up having to take more drugs and more drugs
Mhm.
in order to maintain that level of comfort because of the dopamine.
Yeah.
You know, it gets in there, and especially heroin and so forth. A lot of times they're injecting it. That immediately goes to your brain.
Yeah.
I never understood doing that, but I'm trust me, I've done drugs. I'm not going to lie about that. I was never addicted, and I never did any hard drugs. I when my kids were little, I took black beauties to stay awake because I was self-employed and doing court transcripts and stuff, and so I need to stay up for 2 or 3 days, and that was my little thing to get by. But I've not done those since, I don't know, my son, probably 1985, something like that. And then I didn't do anything else. I've known drug addicts my entire life, though.
Yeah.
My son got into some drugs. My son was an alcoholic, was his major thing. Did you ever get to the point where you were having to drink a lot to go with your meth or anything like that?
I went through a little streak where I did drink a lot for like 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of got a hold of myself, and I think I liked the meth high better, to where I just kind of kicked that one
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't stick around.
Yeah.
But the meth it stuck around for a long time.
Yeah. When you continue drug use, it causes your brain to adapt, and it tries to balance all those dopamine surges that you're getting from your drug abuse. And so the neurons produce less dopamine, and it messes with your receptors. So the person needs to continue to use the drug or practice some behavior to bring the dopamine levels back to normal. And continued use of the drugs may cause you to need more each time as your tolerance increases. Did you notice that with you?
Absolutely.
You know, uh, go from once a week or something, and then
I went from to where I could just do it every weekend or even a couple times a month, to where I was doing it like maybe once a week, and you just catch yourself, and then it just went to an everyday thing,
Mhm.
to where I was strictly using every day for numerous years.
Mhm.
I'd start with a quarter at first. When I first started, it would just be a quarter, and then by the end of it, you're having to do a whole 8 ball just to
Mhm.
get anything off of it because you've done so much.
Kind of makes it hard to pay your bills and stuff when that's going on too, unless you're cooking it.
Right. And it is. It
Yeah.
is.
If
And that's
if you're cooking it, and you're using it, you're not going to make any money anyway.
no.
But it's a difficult situation. You finally you find yourself giving up everything that you would normally pay attention to.
Yeah.
You're not taking care of your children the way you should. You're not paying your bills. You've got all the late notices stacked up for the
Stuff getting
bounced
shut
check.
off.
That's always a headache when something gets shut off.
Yeah.
especially if you got kids, because that's whenever the people tend to call the state
Mhm.
saying, okay, you cannot take care of your kids. We're taking them away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The person continues their drug use or practice some behavior so they can bring these dopamine levels back up to normal. But without the dopamine, it starts creating feelings of, um, without dopamine creating feelings of pleasure in the brain, people become more sensitive to negative emotions also, like stress and anxiety and depression. And withdrawal can make you physically ill. So you feel the need to take it again, even if you were getting off of it because you wanted to feel good again, didn't you?
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, did you find when you were not using that you were stressed out and,
Oh yeah. I was stressed out, always on edge,
you know,
hateful.
you know, just wanted everybody to leave you alone at that point?
Yeah. Yep.
Let me have my drugs and I'll be happy.
Yep. Yeah. And sadly but surely, that's exactly how it was.
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen people get so nervous, and it's like, okay, they're trying to get off drugs, and I know they're trying to get off drugs. They tell me they're doing it, and they'll stand there and they're just fidgeting, and they can't stay still. It's
Yeah.
it breaks my heart every time I run into them.
Yeah.
Now you managed to get off the meth before it really started affecting you physically.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of people that, have developed twitches and so forth from meth use, and they just have a difficult time doing anything. I have one friend of mine. He used meth a lot over the years, and now he has trouble walking.
Hmm.
He stumbles around and he twitches and he jerks, and it breaks my heart. But we've got nearly 23 million Americans right now, age 12 and up, that are addicted to drugs or alcohol.
It's sad. It really is sad. It's the new, like, drugs is, and they're everywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
no matter what you try to do or where you try to go, or if you're running from it, they're everywhere. You'll find it. You have to want it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it was with me. And I'm pretty sure Michael too. You have to really want it deep down, or it's not going to happen.
Yeah. More than 2/3 of the people with addiction also abuse alcohol. And I know Michael had that issue for a while. If he couldn't get a hold of the drugs, then he was drinking.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've known a lot of alcoholics. My father was a truck driver, and there was a lot of them wandering around, and so they were always around. And so the alcoholism I've understood for years. I never liked it. It upset me, and I feel like people were giving, they're like you, what you went through. They're spending their money on drink instead of spending money on their bills.
Yeah.
Um, and I despise the fact that alcohol's legal.
Yeah.
We have so many of them out there that are addicted to alcohol because it's legal.
Mm-hmm.
They won't ever make the drugs legal, so I guess we've got that to look forward to. But you know, we have to consider what that alcohol and everything does to people and how that will tear them down too.
Yeah.
They've gotten really loose on what they're doing. So anyway, the desire for the drug becomes more important than actual pleasure that it provides, because your dopamine plays a key role in your learning and your memory, and it hardwires, this use of drugs hardwires your brain to need more of that addictive substance or experience and so forth. And that just makes life that much harder. You've got all the environmental cues that go with your drug usage also. You have people, places, and things, and you can associate them with your past drug use. And so I know with Michael, we told him numerous times, don't go back to Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody you did drugs with or drank with or broke into places with to get money and so forth, every one of those people are in Nevada. Don't go back there.
Right.
So, uh, did you notice that you needed to stay away from certain people or places?
Absolutely. That's why I don't live in Nevada now.
Mm-hmm. Um, you know, I don't think that anybody should go back to some place where they've been drugged down so far.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm a firm believer on that. I will never, ever probably live in Nevada ever again.
Mhm.
I just, I'm happy with the way my life is, and I don't ever, ever want to lose it.
Yeah. Um, uh, it's hard to make people understand that though sometimes.
It is.
I think I can't count the number of times we asked Michael to get out of Nevada
Mm-hmm.
because everybody he hung out with was doing drugs
Yeah.
or on parole or something like that. It's like there's nothing there that's
That's
good for
good.
you.
Yeah, and there's really not.
And I figure you're probably the same way. You have no desire to go back and see
Mm-mm.
the other people.
No, I don't.
You ever want to go back to Belton? I know you didn't you live up in Belton area for a
No,
while?
no, I never lived in Belton. I lived in Bellamy, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's lots of people that I'm looking at them. I walk up to them and tell them, don't go back there.
yeah,
Well, I need to go back and see this person and that person. And I'll flat ask them, did you do drugs with them? Did you go and get drunk with them every week or whatever? And if they tell me yes, I said, don't go.
right.
Send them an email, call them on the phone, something, but do not walk into their presence.
Right.
Certain situations just make you want to do drugs that more and more and more. And it's amazing how it can come back on you years later.
Yeah.
Now, addiction symptoms, they've listed a lot of them. One of them was feeling that you have to use the drug regularly. So you felt like you had to use it regularly.
Just to get out of bed. Yeah.
Oh, dang, I have to wake up again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got kids out there that I got to get them to school. And, you end up having intense urges for the drugs and those urges will block out all your other thoughts. All you're concerned with is getting that next hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find yourself needing more of the drug to get the same effect.
So then you're just always chasing it.
Mm-hmm. That's seemed to me like it would take an awful lot of time to do that, but praise the Lord,
It is.
I've never been an addict, but
We spend most of our time chasing it.
Mm-hmm. And then you end up taking larger amounts over a period of time. It's like, oh, well, that one didn't quite do it. Let me just take another little hit,
Mm-hmm.
another little snort or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to make sure that you have a certain amount of your chosen supply on hand.
Yeah.
Do not let my supply
Run out.
low. And spending money on drugs, even though you know you don't have it and you can't afford it.
But you still do it.
Made the electricity go off a few times.
Oh, absolutely. And the water. Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, you're not meeting your obligations. And even though the drug is causing problems in your life, your daughter's father, of course, he kept doing the drugs and everything, and you two were fighting, but you kept doing it anyway. He kept doing it anyway. So you
Mhm.
just joined in that to see where it would go. And
Right.
so it's causing problems. So why can't people just understand this is the problem? This is what I'm doing and walk away from it? But addiction is so hard to walk away from on your own.
We still seem to put it number one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sad that we do that. But there's been years and years that I've chose it first over anything and everything.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever resort to stealing or
No,
anything of that
I never
nature?
did that. That's how I got into selling it
Mm-hmm.
and got delivery charges.
Yeah. Well, we both know that Michael was into stealing on occasion and so forth, and that's where he'd get his money to do what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Then you end up going out and you're driving while you're high.
Yeah.
that could be dangerous.
It
That's
could be
a lot of dangerous.
because you're always paranoid looking over your shoulder. It's not very safe at all.
You know, and then, you know, you're failing in your attempts, and you just give it up. You know, I tried, I can't do it. I'm just going to stick with it,
Hmm.
you know, and then a lot of people don't want to go through the withdrawals. Did you go through any kind of withdrawal symptoms?
I withdrawed in jail.
Well, that's, you know, you're in a closed place.
Yep. Yep. We had withdrawals in jail. I was in there for 6 months before they sent me to prison.
Hmm. Wow, that's a long
Yeah.
stretch in that particular jail. It's not a pleasant place.
No, it's not.
And then you went where? Western,
I went to
Western
Vandalia.
Vandalia.
Hmm.
Yeah, my son went to Western Missouri up at St. Joe.
Yeah.
He was horribly addicted to alcohol, you know, and the alcohol led him to try a lot of other drugs over the years, you know, because my kids told me everything. So I would hear every time he was smoking wet, or he was snorting coke, or he was taking ecstasy, and so forth. And that's, you know, that was his coping mechanism for the longest time.
Right.
And it always broke my heart. Um, my son, I've mentioned him on the show before. You know, he died of a heart attack last December in 2020. And he was off all the drugs and everything by that point. But, you know, he spent a lot of time pulling 120 days in prison. You know,
Hmm.
I think he did that 3 times over alcohol. He was always into drinking with his friends. He loved to go out and dance, and he just, if you gave him something, he couldn't quit.
Yeah. Either go big or go home.
Yeah, go big or go home. Yeah, yeah, he was really good at that one. You know, but that one also got him 5 DWIs before he died. You know, and it was a major endeavor to keep him functional and, you know, get him to the point where he stopped going out on the roads while he was drunk, and he's, you know, basically stopped drinking completely before it was over with. But he never, you know, his rehab again was jail or prison.
Mm.
First time he went to prison, I called his roommate to see where he was, and he said he's in the shower. And they were going to try to tell me that he was in the shower for the 4 months he was in prison. And I said, he's not that clean. I know you're lying to me. Where is he at?
No kidding.
But I do know I went to visit him up at prison the first time, you know, and I'm sitting behind my glass talking on my phone, you know, just to communicate with him. And one of the things that he said to me was that he has already been in hell, Mom. I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
You know, and
That's got to be hard hearing your son say that.
yeah, you know, he says it's hell in here. I don't want to go back. I've already been to prison. And that's whenever he started calling me when something was going on, and he'd say, Mom, I need you to do what you do, you know, which meant he wanted me to pray for him because he knew something was going to happen and he needed that extra support from the Lord.
Yeah.
You know, now I know Michael's mother, she's a churchgoer and so forth. Michael's my stepson. And Michael knew that all of us were churchgoers and so forth. And I think he kind of leaned on the Lord a little bit, but he lost track on how to really communicate with him and understand what the Lord will do in your life.
Yeah. He's really big into the Lord, and he's who helps me get closer with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've went to church as I was a kid, but I never really went as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Michael and I try to go whenever he can get off work enough to do, so we can go. But he teaches me a lot about it,
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
You know, I don't know if you can notice her t-shirt because she's not
Yeah.
looking towards a lot of you, but it says welcome fellas, junkies, and saints.
Yep.
That's one of the things for the churches here in Stockton. And they work very heavily with addicts.
Addicts. Yeah, they really do.
I've been down there to that church a couple of times, and I was immensely blessed every time I walked in the door.
Yeah.
It was amazing, and yes, I do own a couple of those same
Do
T-shirts.
ya? Yeah, I like it. It's the truth.
hmm You know, because everybody needs to understand that just because you're an addict doesn't mean that God can't use you.
Right.
There's always a way out, and being able to come out and tell your story is something that you know a lot of people need to hear.
Yeah.
And so many people are afraid to say, hey, I was a drug addict, or I was an alcoholic, I was a heroin addict, whatever the case may be. They want to keep those things secret. And one of the things we want to do here in this show is we want to bring it out in the forefront. We want people to know, yeah, bad things happen and life gets extremely difficult, but there is a way to pull yourself up.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
Michael and I both have been rock bottom. Literally, Michael was sleeping in dumpsters and stealing.
hmm
I was running around town selling drugs. We've literally have hit rock bottom to have to overcome to come back up. But I feel like Michael and I are literally living, walking proof. My husband is a 5-time felon and works a really good job, makes really good money to support me and my daughter.
hmm
I work as well, but I just work part time. But Michael does a really good job. I feel like we're walking proof that it doesn't matter what you've done or what's happened or how many felonies you have or what drugs you did or what twitches you got. It doesn't matter.
No,
It doesn't. There's
it's
life
what
out there,
matters is the fact that you stepped past that.
right? That you can admit that you had a problem. See, I've always kept it real with myself. I've never lied to myself. I've known I've always been a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never lied to myself about it. But when you can become honest with yourself about it, then that's when you can tell your story to other people and actually mean it.
Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people don't want.
They live a lie.
Yeah, they don't want people to know what they did in the past. That's why I love testimony services. Somebody comes into the church and it's like, okay, we're just going to have a testimony service today. I want to hear what the Lord has brought you through.
Yeah.
What brought you to this position? Because if you don't tell your story, you're not helping those around you. They need
Right.
that. They need that outstretched hand or that, communication so that they know, yeah, she was a drug addict. Yeah, she did all this stuff and she was a little tiny walking scarecrow.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of meth users look like. They look like little tiny walking
I
scarecrows.
look like The Walking Dead. I really did. And now it's funny, but back then it just really wasn't. And I thought I looked really good. I thought I was really looking really good. And I just,
Yeah.
don't. I do now. I love the way I look now.
hmm Yeah, you get past that and you're going, yeah, Lord gave me these.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I got a little, I can't say depressed, but whenever I started to gain a little bit of weight, I was just like, oh no. But I'm happy with it.
hmm
I've grown to love it.
Yeah.
I'm pleasantly plump and I love it.
Nothing wrong with pleasantly plump,
As long as you're happy with your life.
because even at pleasantly plump,
Yeah.
you're beautiful.
Yeah. Inside and out. I'm sober.
hmm
I'm happy.
you don't have to look like the Walking Dead anymore and delude yourself that was an amazing look.
Right.
My heart breaks for those I see walking around.
Me
It's
too.
like, okay, you have absolutely no meat on your bones. I know you're freezing out there.
Right.
It's going to have winter weather today.
Yeah. It breaks my heart too, because I've actually literally been there.
Mhm.
And it's so sad. I pray for anybody and everybody out there that is in addiction. I hope they can grab a hold of it and shake it off and be the man or the woman that you can be.
And if you've got kids, you owe it to them.
Absolutely. You do. Like, I've neglected my kids and I was a horrible mom. But hey, I'm sober today. I have my kid, my daughter,
Hmm.
and I'm happy. That's all that matters.
Her daughter is really cute too,
Yeah.
and um, she's amusing, and we love seeing her come by and visit with us. But your mom really basically raised your daughter, didn't she? She
Yes.
was there
My
from.
mom, I was actually blessed enough to where my mom raised my daughter
Mhm,
because I was so bad in addiction. My mom never kept her from me,
mhm,
and she always told Kennedy who her mom was. And because Kennedy was really little when my mom had her.
yeah.
So, she never kept her from me like for a long periods of time. She never let me come around if I was messed up. And she raised my daughter to, I just got her back not even a year ago,
Mhm,
full time.
yeah. And
And it's great.
she's 16 now, so
Yes, I've lost a lot of time, but I try not to dwell on that because
yeah.
that's not going to get me anywhere.
No, you just have to pick up from that point
Mm,
and make the most of your time together now.
yes.
You've got a lot of years between her 16th birthday
Hmm.
and when you pass.
Yeah.
You know, some people just figure, well, I did all this and I'm never going to go back and see my kids. I'm never going to do that. Don't take that attitude. Your
No.
children need you.
Yeah.
Um, and if drugs and alcohol have become between you and your family members and so forth, know that you can get past that.
Absolutely.
Your children need to know who you are, and they need to know your story too, so that they don't fall into that same trap.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
My daughter's scared of drugs.
Hmm.
She will never probably use drugs.
That's always a good situation.
Yeah.
We always want our children to be better off than we were. And if
Absolutely.
they get into that, you don't want to watch them struggle. Because I know every time I'd watch the kids struggle, um, my kids, my husband's kids, whoever they are, uh, it broke my heart. I,
Yeah.
I didn't want to see it, but there was nothing I could do till they reached that point when they wanted to quit.
So that's like my mom. My mom was devastated when I got sent to prison.
Hmm. Yeah, it broke my heart when my son went to prison.
And it doesn't, it affects you guys too, our family, our whole family.
Hmm.
We just don't realize that. We're too in our addiction to realize that or to even care.
Hmm. Yeah, nobody matters but
You
you.
and your drug.
Mhm.
Your drug is number one,
It will
and it's not right.
destroy your life completely if you allow it to.
Absolutely. It took
But
everything for me and my husband, but it's not the end of the world. We've gained a lot. Plus
yeah.
everything. Like we live a really good life.
Hmm. I've been blessed with watching those who came out.
Yeah.
Um, so, anybody out there that's suffering from addiction now, whether it's alcohol or um, anything of that nature, you need to find somebody to talk to. You
Reach
need
out.
reach out to somebody.
There's always someone out there to help you.
Hmm.
I mean, really, there is.
And if you come across somebody who used to have an addiction, stop and talk to them. Stop and ask them to be with you. Find a good church and ask them to pray for you. Or if nobody else will pray for you, then fine, call me. Like I say,
Yeah.
anytime we're doing this show, if you need help, call. Call me, call Axe Ministry. They'll put you through to me, whatever the case may be. And we'll go from there.
Yeah.
You know, there's always something that you can do and get yourself back upright.
There's always hope. Absolutely.
Yep. I debated that for a while and
Yeah.
over the years, but it's like, okay, I don't want to find my son dead or anything of that nature. And you always concern yourself with that. But there is a way out.
There is.
So we ask you again, if you're suffering from that, please reach out to someone. We thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week with Trials and Triumphs.